Welcome to Launch Code, a premier business podcast, starring Evan Hafer, Matt Best, and Jared Taylor.
Today we wrap up with part 3 with our conversation with Donnie Vincent.
Oh, yeah, but I think that's the whole thing where you've got a huge population of people that follow you. You've got 70,000+ people that follow you on Instagram. You and I get the similar things, you know. I mean, I got 40,000 people, and then whatever Black Rifle has. Mm-hmm. But just the fact that you're asking the question, and you know, just the fact that you're asking that question says that you might not know the answer, and or you might not even be willing to find it. Mm-hmm. Because you know, there's two people in my mind, which is you got the guys that are like, I'm just asking questions because there's nothing that's going to stop me, and I'm looking for anything that fucking any form of information because I'm going to do it. And then you get the guys that are like,
that's just somebody that's just eating information. Like, give it to me, feed me,
devour it. And then you've got the guys that are like, I'm asking that question because, you know, they're the guys that have a fucking guitar and a banjo and a fucking, you know, a race car or whatever the fuck they got, because they're just like, I want to do this and it sounds fun. And then 2 weeks later, they're going to be moved on to something else. Mm-hmm. But I don't think people understand that. And I think to commit to something where every fiber of your being, there's nothing that allows you to do anything else, actually. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that will deter you. Mm-hmm. There's no possible way that you can do anything else with your life other than this thing. Mm-hmm. To know that form of commitment, to understand that, like, that's the thing that I try to tell people. I'm like, you need to understand that, which is, how do you commit to something, not in just like a commitment, like I can verbalize it. Mm-hmm.
No, but it's like this thing that we do at Sigmanta, if you will. Like, this is what we do. Like this, if we go out of business tomorrow, we'll be doing this the next day without money. Yeah, and that's just how it works. Yeah, that's just we're going to do this the rest of our lives, and we you know, we might not film it, we might not produce a film, but like, if I go out of business tomorrow, you know, September 1st, I'll be on an airplane flying up to the Arctic Circle to go do this without a photographer and without, you know, we won't be producing anything. But that's I think that's what you're, you know, kind of referring to, is that it's just who you are. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've got to, it's who you are.
Yeah. It's literally, it's what we embody. We embody. Yeah.
And I don't think people understand that. A lot of people don't even understand what that's like. They don't understand full commitment, full embodiment, they understand marriage to a certain degree because they're like, you know, I got married but I'm going to get divorced in like fucking a year or whatever it is, right? I understand that. Yeah. But do they understand, okay, I have no other choice. There is no. There is no other option. This is it. Mm-hmm. I don't think they do. Mm-hmm. And I think once they understand that, because that's one of the actual things where people ask me about the business all the time. They're like, what's made you successful? I'm like, I have a context of understanding of going, like, setting a goal and achieving it. It's no different than anything else I've ever done in my life. It's there's the fucking top. I'm going to go to it. Mm-hmm. I've defined success and been able to go, okay, this is what this success looks like right here. What do I need to do? How do I plan my route to this fucking thing? Mm-hmm. And I mean, how long do you have to stay? And sometimes that's an open-ended commitment. I might have to be here for fucking 3 months, and maybe I go back empty-handed. Mm-hmm. I don't fucking know. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I get, when we did the story for Men's Health, the art director for Men's Health, she asked me, she's like, so what day are you going to kill the elk on? You know, really? And I was like, I said, I might not even get one. She goes, oh, don't say that, because then we don't have a story. Oh, don't say that. I'm like, well, it's not a story about a elk getting killed. You know, it's a story about hunters. You know, that's what we're talking about here. Is we're talking about hunters, and and what it means to be a hunter, and psychologically and physically and engaging the wilderness. And so it's just, but yeah, this is who we are. This is who we are. And you know, when we did that short, Who We Are. Right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful film,
yeah.
and I stole the name. Evidently, we just found that out. I stole the name. Richard Ryan stole the fucking name, by the way.
Yeah,
Fuck him.
I'll have the lawyer that I don't have call him tomorrow morning.
I got a great one.
Oh, good.
I'll just give it to you.
Yeah, great.
Trust me.
Yeah, great. But yeah, it's just I said this actually on Rogan's podcast because the lady from Nat Geo called me and just said, you know, like, yeah, so just we want you to just tell us why you hunt, you know, and that was one of the first times that it's not that I didn't realize who I was as a hunter or hunting, but that was the first time someone else had asked the external question, you know, like, so why is it that you're a hunter, you know, like, and man, searching for that answer was just, and I'm still searching for, you know, pieces of it, and searching for, I mean, I will be the rest of my life, and it's a moving target, right? It's something to a constant reevaluation, but that's kind of what we're talking about, is having somebody think about who they are, what they are, and chasing that stuff down. And that's what, when you see all these different people doing different things and you find sensational stories, a lot of these things that are sensational stories, you'll find a guy that just loves motorcycles and has worked on motorcycles from the 1960s, and you can see him, and I watched this, and I don't know who filmed it. I forget who filmed it, and I forget the subject matter. I forget the gentleman's name. But this thing that I'm thinking about, as soon as you said, like, people, you know, this is who they are. I watched this interview of this guy who he had raced motorcycles, worked on motorcycles, and when you watch the piece, you would think any guy that loves motorcycles, or any guy that's raced motorcycles or anything like that, would sit there and think, why are they filming this guy and not me? Like, I'm, you know, you might think, hey, I'm handsome, you know, I'm educated, I went to, you know, motorcycle mechanic school. Like, how come these guys aren't talking to me? But this guy that they were talking to, like, he was filthy dirty, and he was wearing an old torn Led Zeppelin shirt, and he was sitting there, you know, he kind of sat there like he didn't really have a spine, and his pecs were kind of concave, and he just kind of hunched over, almost like you might see like an old man in a cartoon, and he had this cigarette that he was trying to smoke, but there was only a little bit left, and his hair was all messy, and you know, and he sat there with the cigarette between his fingers, and he kind of sat there almost feminine with his legs crossed really close to his crotch, you know, and he just kind of flopped his extremities around, and he, you know, and this guy was interviewing him, and he's like, it was one of the coolest pieces I've ever seen, because he's like, oh yeah, like I have like a 1974 Kawasaki 50. It's in here someplace. And he had motorcycles in the rafters, and he had it, and you know, and he talked about, yeah, well, that 50, I got that from a junkyard. I bought that from a guy named Barry, and oh, that son of a bitch. And so then he talked about this Harley over here, and then he talked about this Indian that he had, and then he talked about like this girl that he dated, and he took her on for. So like this guy just tells random.
It's fucking awesome.
But it was so good, and like anyone that would watch that, like those are what filmmakers, they're looking for those dudes, right?
Yeah.
And so like I think, that's just, you know, where you know, translating to our work, and people saying, you know, that's like me writing to that guy going, how do I get in the motorcycle industry? You know, how do I, you know, and that guy doesn't have an answer for that, you know. But if I wanted to do work in the motorcycle industry, that's as easy as getting a job in the motorcycle industry. You know, that it doesn't mean you're going to have the coolest job in the world in the motorcycle industry. It doesn't mean you're going to be the subject matter of documentaries, but it might.
Right.
It might, if that's who you are. It might like I've talked to homeless guys where I wish I had a freaking camera, because the things that are coming out of their face is a fantastic story, whether it be of suffering, heroin addiction, no addiction whatsoever, but just a choice to live on the streets to,
Right.
you know, and yeah, I just, these stories, people's stories, and no matter, you know, that's what I would say more than anything to people is like, man, I really hope you have a story, because if your story is you work 9 to 5, which is nothing wrong with that, but if you work 9 to 5 and you come home and you watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, and then you go to work the next day and you bitch about The Bachelor or Bachelorette or who are the people that live in California, the girl with the big butt and boobs, yeah, Kardashians.
Oh,
So the Kardashians. So
I try
like,
not to even recognize they live.
yeah, so those people like if you're, you know, just like, you know, like.
But I'll say it. I'll say it, which is like, man, if you're living a 9 to 5, like I'll say it, which is like if you're not trying to do something that you really want, like maybe the 9 to 5 thing is like that's rad, like that's what you're saying, right? Maybe that's your calling,
yeah,
and that's your jam, and you're living it, dude.
Yeah.
But and this isn't a motivational fucking speaking tour whatsoever. But it's like, man, you saw him, I saw him. Like I saw, and so many of my friends were like, man, you know, they graduated from college, they went on to like work at a fucking bank, and the high point of their life was junior year when they had sex with that fucking random slut when they were like half fucking drunk in their frat or their dorm room. And it's like, that's the high point of your fucking life, dude. Like, to your point, it's like, why are you reading fiction?
Yeah,
because
like
life is way more interesting than that bullshit.
Break some eggs and knock down some doors and do, like, it might be a slippery slope, but chase some damn things.
Make mistakes. Like, land yourself in fucking jail. Like, I always tell these people, and maybe it's bad. Maybe it's bad advice. I don't fucking know.
Well, I don't think it's bad advice. I mean, you don't want to murder somebody.
You don't want to murder somebody. I'm just telling you, like, as long as you're not inflicting harm on other people, like, go out and just fucking experience some shit. Like you get one spin on this fucking rock, as far as I know.
No, that's it.
As far as I know.
That's it.
Like, I'm not going to say I'm right on any of it. I don't fucking know. I'm just saying,
well, even
as far as I know, you get one spin.
Even if you're right or wrong, you get one spin.
You get one spin.
You're not existing here any longer. Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
And that's the whole fucking context to this. Where
it's
I'm
so
like,
short.
It's so fucking short.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can honestly, and I can say this is some of the best thing that I can take away from my previous life. I've lived life in the fraction of a second. And I've experienced the pain and joy in the fraction of 1 second. Not in 1 second, but actually a fraction of a second. How many people can say I can look back on the fraction of a second and thank whatever fucking existence that we have? I can say, I know that was fucking amazing. Not too many. And that's the only thing that I'm happy. And when I say that, like, there's a lot of this, but I'm like, if you're living in this fucking 9 to 5, like, okay, well, I wish I could do this. That is a personal, psychological fucking prison you have built yourself.
And it's easy. It's easy to convince. I struggled with it a lot.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, not that I didn't think I could do fantastic things, but yeah, I guess that was it. I probably thought I couldn't do fantastic things. So I just thought I wasn't, like, I always thought growing up, you know, I had friends that were, I raced motorcycles when I was a kid, and there's always somebody that was faster. And we worked on motorcycles when we were kids, and there's always a kid that was a really good mechanic. And it was just, I don't know, I never felt like I was good at anything. Like, I never felt like I was the best at anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
I
know exactly what you're talking about.
But you always kind of think about that stuff, but really that has very little to do with it, right?
Yeah.
You can still chase really amazing things, and I think it's a silly notion. You know, people talk about living like you're dying, like live like this is the last day, but really
die living, or
but
whatever.
Really that's what you have to chase, right? That's really what you have to chase, is doing something, whether that be how you're having dinner tonight, how you're having sex tonight, whatever you are doing right now, do it with more dynamics, or think of what's going to happen tonight, or how, I don't care how you're going to sleep or whatever. You get my point. Like, you can always kind of break down some walls and chase some things that are bigger and better. And even like, there are people that do really, really amazing things that inspire us all. And, you know, I use this type of inspiration all the time, because no matter how badass you are, right? No matter how badass Black Rifle Coffee Company is, there are people that you sit back and go, look at what this guy's doing over here.
All the time.
All the time. And so I use that stuff all the time. Like, I just read, who's the guy that you just visited with yesterday?
Aubrey Marcus.
I just finished his book yesterday. And there are aspects of it that I was just like, I loved it.
Yeah.
Because he was just kind of like, I'm terrible at this, but I think it's called Own Your Day, Own the Day, Own the Day. Yeah. So it's just like, just that premise. And, you know, when he says, right, it's the last paragraph, he says, if you think I do all of this stuff perfectly every day, you're nuts, right? Because he kind of tells you how to wake up, how to eat, how to go to work, how to work at your office, how to have sex with your girlfriend, how to eat dinner, how to go to sleep. That's what he tells you. Like, how to make a 24-hour period the best, the most kick-ass 24-hour period in your life. And then he tells you at the end, he's like, if you think I do all this stuff, you're nuts. But he's chasing that comet the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to run that thing down the whole time. And I think, I don't know, I think there's something to be said for that. I think you can find sensational things in your own damn neighborhood to go and do an experience and challenge yourself.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, like, the question I have to ask is, like, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing to chase down those comets outside of hunting?
I don't know. Like, for me, it's like, there are different things that I'm trying to, whether it be for fitness or food, or the more I learn about, and I learned some of this stuff early on in my life, but the more I learn about the things that we've put in our bodies, and then training, and how we're trending towards living our lives with nutrition and fitness, and then educating ourselves and challenging ourselves, right? So, like, some of the things that we were talking about today, right? Trying to not necessarily trying to construct, if you will, trying to build, trying to encapsulate an idea.
Yeah, and what obstacles have you created? I want to know what obstacles Donnie has created in his mind that he knows they exist.
Oh,
like, I want to know what kind of fucking obstacles you've created. And this isn't a psychological exam. Yeah. What do you want to fucking bust out? Like, dude, what's the wall that you need to bust out of your life?
Well, I have a couple. One I'm not willing to talk about, but I have a couple.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the one aspect that I'm not really willing to talk about, but one of the things that I want to do is I want to try to be a little bit happier.
Okay.
Right. So I want to try to. It's not that I'm not that I'm always down, but I'm always seem to find a way to. I have a really good ability to find the suck. I have a really easy way looking at myself in the mirror, or looking at myself in the things that I'm doing, and just saying, yep, it's really good, except for I could be much better here, and here. It's very easy for me.
Okay, but why? Like, I'm not trying to psychologically.
No.
So it's why?
I don't know. It's just, I just wish I was better at a lot of things. Like, when I break down different elements, whether it be mathematics, or having more intelligence, or trying to understand simple yet complex problem in life, whether that be, this is so embarrassing, but I'll give you a friend, like, if I'm trying to do something on a computer that, I can't figure it out, and I'm not going to ask for help because I'm going to figure it out, right? Something relatively simple. And so I say, I'm going to do this. I'm downloading this file. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then it's not working. And so, then I'm just like, scratching my head. And so then I have to go get help from somebody. Right. And then they come and help me and they go, oh yeah, just do this and this. And it's not intuitive, but if you drag this and click this, then you're good and everything's good. And it just infuriates me not infuriates me, but it bugs me that, I didn't figure it out on my own. And then I just naturally build up. I just naturally have.
You should give yourself a trophy. No shit.
I naturally have.
If you don't, like, Dave was a fucking Mac specialist.
So
I fired him. I fire him 20
times
times a day.
For me.
I fire him 20 times a day, just out of my own pure enjoyment.
Mm-hmm. Just to reset yourself.
Just to fucking, like, I love firing Dave on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, like if you don't know something in technology, give yourself a trophy. I'm not giving you a psychological fucking pep talk. I'm just saying, like, dude, that's awesome. Fuck technology.
Well,
you know how to fucking kill shit in the hardest way with one of the most fucking, like, impossible. Like, dude, you're hitting a fucking hole in one every, like, quarter or however, and I'm not breaking it down into financial quarters. I'm just saying, like, dude, you're fucking putting an arrow into an animal and taking the meat from that animal and digesting it. Like, dude, like, you're bigger than a fucking, like, I don't even know NFL or pro sports, sporting activities or whatever the fuck those dudes do, like kick balls around for money. I don't fucking know. But what you do is fucking super hard.
I appreciate that. Because we do these things, right? We go through life. Rogan actually talked about this when we were texting before we did the podcast. I listened to a little bit of his stand-up and I listened to him speak a little bit.
Great.
And one of the things that he talked about, which I really loved, is that we become who we are off of other people's engagements. Like you said earlier, people run through their lives until they run into a wall. And once they do, they freaking turn left.
Yeah, turn around.
Well, we kind of do that in society as well. Because we act like if you're at a party and you're acting like a complete buffoon and you piss a bunch of people off, all of a sudden you're not invited to the next party.
Yeah.
So oh shit, I'm not going to act like that anymore. And then, or if you're in college and you're doing something destructive and you flunk out of college, then okay, so like we just do these things, like, or you're talking to a coworker, a simple sentence. And I hate when people do this, when somebody misspeaks and then or speaks poorly and then somebody just jump. Like we do this in podcasts, right? I'll guarantee you from this podcast, either you or I will say something, already have, I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah.
Where somebody be like, oh no,
100
Mother
things.
Hubbard,
Don't give a fuck.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So like for instance, I on a Rogan podcast, this is a digression, but I mentioned that I had an engagement with a big killer whale.
Yeah,
and
it was a fucking really awesome story.
It's the most fantastic experience that I've ever had. But I said that dorsal fin was 10 feet tall because that's what it felt like to me when it was 20 yards from me. And then some guy wrote me and he's like, I looked at Wikipedia, dorsal fins only go to 8 feet.
Shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up. Like 8 feet, 10 feet, motherfucker. If I jump off a bridge and I eyeball it, shit was 10 feet.
Yeah,
it was 10 feet.
Pretty close.
Come on. Close. It's a fucking dorsal fin on an orca whale.
Yeah. That was hitting our boat. But anyway, so Rogan just says, like, you shape yourself off of other people's engagements. And I feel like my whole life has been some sort of that, other than the fact of when I actually started asking myself, like, because I know, like, what we're talking about right now. Like, that's why, like, I'm freaking, like, I can feel like my body composition changing because I'm like, because these are things that I've never, ever talked about.
That's all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about talking about anything else, Donnie. This is a 3-hour fucking podcast. I want to know Donnie.
And
we did the fucking first hour just to chop away, to throw in the fucking trash.
Just to warm
I
up.
want to know Donnie Vincent.
So that's it though. It's like I've always felt, in all sincerity, like I've never felt very smart. And, things like school were always a super struggle for me. And then like I would bring up ideas to people and, people would act what I was bringing up wasn't normal. And so people kind of shun you. And so then you start to like, reflect on that, and you start to like ping pong in between these ideas, and you start to develop into a person that you are in like my teens and 20s. And it was just, and I think this maybe even comes with age, although I see it with people with some years on them as well, is like pretty soon you just want to say, screw everybody. Like, I'm just going to do what is right for me. And like, that's literally like, that's where our, like, I don't mean to keep bringing it back, but that's where our work really started to get exciting, because I stopped thinking about it with everyone else in context and just started making it for myself and sharing it with people. And so these are the things that, I think about, and these are the things that, like, I know, I mean, I can't even tell you how many freaking sleepless nights I've had where I've thought like, I'm going to go out of business, or like, what am I going to do if I lose a team member, or what am I going to do if, like I went through do you know what target panic is at all?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I went through, I went through target panic and like, I mean, I was questioning everything, and just like, it's very easy to question your talents and lack thereof for me. Like I've never, I told this to you today in the boardroom, like I've never been a confident guy. Never had. It absolutely sucks, but I've never, ever had self-confidence ever. And and I don't know how to say that sentence without sounding like a chump, but I've never, ever been able to walk into a room and been like, yeah, I'm the best guy in here. I'm the best looking guy. I'm the strongest guy. I'm the smartest guy. I'm the fastest guy. I can shoot the furthest. I've never, ever, ever felt like I owned the room, nor have I ever felt like I needed to or wanted to. I just always felt like, God, it's very easy for me to see the areas of my life that, that I want to work on.
Yeah, but why do you want to? I mean, not that you want to, but why would you ever feel like you need to?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe encapsulating that idea of always wanting to trend towards, whatever better is.
I think true leadership comes from the people that don't know that they're the guy that commands the room. They don't know, nor do they care about it. They're just doing what they do, right? Naturally. They just like to put this back into kind of a hunting scape, like an elk is just doing what it does, man. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the biggest struggles for me personally, so I'm only trying to correlate it to this, is you have to kind of just accept some of those things.
I think so. Yeah.
Because you and your natural habitat and who you are, people will appreciate that more than you trying to adapt to a different habitat that you're not assimilated to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what everything else is. Like, that's what every fucking thing else is. That's Kardashians. That's those fucking big butt whores that fucking do whatever they do. That's a great
right? sentence. Yeah. Big butt whores should probably be on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I mean, who gives a shit about them? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to watch somebody, I want to be inspired. I want to be inspired by the fact that they're doing exactly what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but like, nothing else will deter them from what they want to do. Mm-hmm. It's not an act. Mm-hmm. Everything that we see is an act. Mm-hmm. Pull apart the curtains and fucking begin the show. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to see the show, man.
Yeah. No, okay. This I know. Yeah, like that's what I just started to kind of, the first TV show that was brought to me as an offer for me to host.
Which one was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it wasn't named. It wasn't named yet.
Yeah.
It was just coming to conceptual. It was going to be concept, if you will. But these two very wealthy guys approached me and they said, "Hey, we're going to do a hunting TV show. We want you to be the host." And they brought it to me and they said, "The premise is you're the best." And I said to them, "I'm not," and they said, "You can never miss."
What?
Yep. They said, "You can never miss. We'll never show misses. We'll never show like you being infallible or failing. We'll never like." They wanted to build they wanted to build a persona around me, and I just told them, I said that I'm the furthest thing from interested in this. Like, I would much rather, and I was already starting to work on the Rivers Divide, and I just said I would much rather we just show everything. I would much rather, even at the detriment of people saying, "Oh my God, dude, you missed Steve at 17 yards. You shot him in the shoulder at 34, whatever it was." I'm just talking here. I would much rather that create a discussion and people, a relationship with people and relating with people than to the smoke and mirrors. And so I would much rather, and that's why I really enjoy writing for the things that I write to, because I'm able to literally write to you what's in my mind with total transparency, total vulnerability, and you can eat me alive if you want. Like, I've received a bunch of, like, I mean, I didn't receive them to me personally, but like, if you go to, we actually were laughing really hard, but if you go to like the YouTube channel where Rogan posted his podcast,
yeah.
Like, I mean, like, literally 9 out of every 10 comments are saying that I'm completely full of shit.
What?
Like, oh yeah, they're like, oh, this dude is such a liar.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, and that's the YouTube world.
Like, those fucking troll motherfuckers.
And
dude.
so but it's actually like, we were laughing so hard because I was fortunate enough to spend a summer with a pack of wolves, and I talked about that on that podcast, and then this guy writes, oh yeah, this reminds me of the, like, 2 summers ago in Southern California, I lived with a pot of mermaids, and it was so amazing. It's just, God, we were laughing so hard reading these things in the airport. But that's just the trolling community, right? And that's how it goes. But like, the messages to me were really super positive. There's just a couple of negative ones, but everyone, like, people celebrate the fact of that I ask myself all the time if I should be hunting, why I'm hunting,
Dude.
how I'm hunting, like, literally sitting back and asking myself, these big questions, if you will. And so that's kind of how I've lived my life. And, I grew up, people had much harder childhoods than I've had, but it sucked. Like, I hated being a kid, hated it, hated, like, from birth to 20, I loathed it. Yeah. Hated it. Yeah. Almost every minute.
Hey man, like, I'm like, I mean, it's not a Cheers moment, but to a certain degree it is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that, like, I loathe it, every fucking second of it.
Yeah.
And my escape was going out with my grandfather, and he was like a mountain. He was a fucking legitimate kind of mountain man.
Mm-hmm.
It was my escape. Mm-hmm. And
what an escape.
He was a great guy. Yeah. Not only the fact that he was a great guy, he lived a great, super transparent life. And my dad was a really good dude, but he was working nonstop. Mm-hmm. He was never around. Mm-hmm. But that's just a shared context in the sense of, I did a Reddit AMA earlier in the year. It was a fucking horrible experience. Like,
why?
People fucking ate me alive. Like, your life is fiction. Like, you fucking invented all this shit. Yeah, like Jason Bourne and shit. I'm like, dude, I'm not even the best. I'm not even the best in class. I'm just telling you what I did. Yeah. Like, there are guys that have done much more than me. Yeah. I'm just the guy.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, that same class of people, that same group of people, that's what responded to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's some guy on his fucking couch. Yeah. It's like, dude, a fraction of my day, like 10 minutes of my day, would make you go into fucking cardiac arrest. And I did that for years of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, and there's no context.
Yeah.
Like me taking out the trash was more fucking entertainment and more adrenaline that you would ever, than some of these people would ever receive in their fucking life.
Absolutely. Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. But I mean, I was called a liar.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like,
Yeah, same.
10 years of my life, dude, where
Yeah.
it's like, it's 10 years, man. Like those are years that I can't directly account for because of the organization I worked for, but man, that's 10 years of my life. Like that's 40 fucking trips. Like it's 40 fucking trips.
Yeah.
And it's brutal because you hear these fucking dudes and it's like, if they had a chance to, and they wouldn't, because there's no way that they would even pass to fucking sit at a table.
No, they'd be a target at best.
It's like,
be wasting an enemy's bullet, unfortunately.
So, like those people, I've had a hard time with that. Like honestly, I've had a hard time with that because you say you laugh.
Well, you have to. I have to
I know.
because it's it's funny because I have friends, several friends write me and they're like, those MFers. Like I'm literally.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who's like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm literally until I email these 2,000 people to F off and go jump off a cliff. I'm not going to sleep tonight. Mm-hmm. And so like and then who it really pissed off was William Altman, the director. He was furious because like he's been in these spots with me, standing literally on my heels, and he is just furious that like and I'm like, he's texting me like, and I'm like, William, just like these, they're sitting in their mom's basement, they're they're just chilling out, and that's all they have. Like that's all this is going to be. And so you just got to let them buck.
Well, but it's funny. The first time we met, actually, the first time we met, I was like, man, that fucking dude is legit.
SHOT Show.
Yeah. When I was like, man, that fucking dude is legit.
I
like
appreciate that.
anything came out of your mouth, I'd be like, yeah. In all actuality, I think that he's probably given it 70% of what it was. He's probably given it 70%. He's given a conservative value to the story. And you're an incredible storyteller, man.
I appreciate
you're
that.
an incredible storyteller. But when you know, where it's like, man, I fucking like Richard. I think Richard was the one that like kind of connected all the dots.
Yep.
And, well, I walked out of that podcast. I was like, man, I want to do 3 hours with Donnie.
Yeah.
And that's what this is, because I'm like, for fucking 2 years,
Wicked.
I've been wanting to do 3 hours with Donnie Vincent, because I'm like, that guy is fucking deep, dude.
I remember I said something on your podcast about time. Like people don't realize, human beings think that we have been here forever, if you will. And like they don't realize that we have been here, like we talked about this. So like, and I don't know these numbers factual, so I'm just going to make it up in the ballpark, but like T-Rex.
Yeah.
Right, we talked about this.
Yeah.
T-Rex lived here for like 10 million years. Well, human beings have been here not even, a fraction of what he was here. And if you look at the timeline of things, he was here for a blip of time. Like, so it's a really hard idea to wrap your head around.
It's super hard
and that's why you have to chase these things, right?
Yeah.
Because your life is a flash. And in Aubrey Marcus's book, so they did a study, and this stuff really speaks to me, and like about the happiness thing that I was just talking about, which unfortunately I won't tell you about until we're off the podcast. But they interviewed a bunch of wealthy people, men and women, really wealthy people, on their deathbed, and said, what would you change?
Yeah.
And they said they wish they would have spent more time with friends.
Yep.
And they wish they would have allowed themselves to be happier. Allowed themselves to be happier. And that's kind of the realm that I'm like, that's the thing. Like when I heard that, I was like, Mother Hubbard. Like that's what I'm freaking thinking about, is like allowing yourself to be happy. And like you're right. Like when I tell stories, you're the first person that's ever called me out, by the way. But when I tell stories to people, I try to unsensationalize it, because I don't try to unsensationalize it, but I try to minimize it.
Yes.
Yeah. because it sounds so outlandish. And the first time I met you, the first time we did a podcast together, we were standing in the kitchen before we did the podcast, and we were talking about some of your missions, but not in detail. And you said, well, I'll tell you stories, but I'll tell you stories sometime, but I'm not going to do it right now because you're just going to think I'm a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard, like, I have a friend of mine named Tim Lesage, who's a scout sniper, and super, super talented guy. And his stories are, you know, so fantastic. And you can't really call him bullshit because, you know, he'll show you pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even call him bullshit anyway. That's not like, if you tell me what you did it. Like, that's, for me, if I'm, depending on the man or a woman I'm talking to, it's face value. Like, you tell me that happened, it happened.
Yeah. And I don't even tell stories. Like, that's the thing with me, is I don't even tell stories because there's a lot of different reasons, which is I am who I am today. As we sit here and we speak, I don't want you to judge me on some story that I'm conveying because that's my point of view, right? The guy in the seat, left or right, could have a totally different story. Totally different story. And that's probably the more accurate story. It's not mine. My story is this is the information. This is what happened. But I am who I am today. Like, as I sit around, you know, a table and I talk, you need to judge me on the, you know, the things that come out of my face, not on some fucking story that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do that anyway. But it's you know, I like the details, right? I like to like people would hear a story that you might tell and related to, like, you know, like what you said earlier, like something Jason Bourne-esque, right?
Yeah.
Something. But to me, if we were sitting in a room of people, I would just listen. But if it was just you and I would like to understand, like, exactly where your mind was at. I would like to understand things like, what did you eat that day?
Yeah.
Like, were you hungry when this happened? Like, where did you find your water? Like, did you, like, you know, how were you laying? How were you holding your weapon?
Nothing that cool. Like, I wish.
I just think of all these things. Like, I think about, like, how did you, and I know these are all techniques, but I just think, like, how did you stay awake? And how, like, when were your lungs burning and your legs burning? To where you're like, son of a
like that.
bitch.
That's the funny thing, is like my best stories are like, you know, finding where the Iraqis would go to butt fuck. Like, their places where they would go to butt fuck, and setting up a meeting place.
Like, literally?
Yeah, the Iraqi men, where they would, like, go on the outskirts of town to butt fuck in, like, lines of cars. And that's where I would have meetings with, like I would link up with shitbags, because I knew that nobody wanted to pull surveillance on the places where gay men were having sex. And so I would fucking set up crazy fucking link up spots.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, man, it's like, dude, my biggest wins are not like crazy fucking stories. They're like, man, me and my buddy hid out in a place where a bunch of Iraqi men were having sex in the middle of the night, so we could go link up with an Al Qaeda guy at fucking 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
My big wins were like figuring out where the fuck these dudes weren't going to be. Like that was like my master chess pieces, like the pieces that I would lay on the board and go, this was the fucking move that nobody saw. That's, for me, that's the win, right? Like, like I was doing, like, for me, like, those are the things where I'm like, some of the most proud things where I'm like, we laid out the board and we put in moves. I invented this fucking 3-step move, and shit, that's where we were. Yeah. Nobody fucking saw us, and nobody would see us.
Why is there, I don't know how to ask this appropriately. Why was there so much gay sex? Was it just that was the gay community there? Or?
No, man. Like gay, like, and I have nothing against gay people whatsoever. It's just procreation. Because of Islam, and because of the culture, like, you know, and a lot like, you know, our culture, but they're even less, you know, there's no permission of homosexuality whatsoever. It had to be like kind of way off the radar, but it was super prevalent. And that was the one thing where, you know, women were so taboo and they were so off limits that
oh my God,
men were kind of seeking each other out in a lot of different ways. Anything.
Anything.
Any form of contact, right? And you know, we're like, oh shit, this is where all the gay dudes are going? Well, that's where we need to be linking up, because no Al-Qaeda guy is going to go there intentionally, and they're going to be like turning around knowing that that's where they're going.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have Iraqi police. We're not going to have Iraqi army. We're not going to have anybody watching that site, because all it's going to be is like a fuck fest. So great. Let's go there.
Yeah. That's,
that's my hunting spot,
that's
where
your
it's
quick
like,
win. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So it's like,
get it. I totally get it. Yeah. Looking at all the different variables, but it's just, but you know, sitting here, I already have a bunch of questions. Like that's, but yeah, that's.
This is a long fucking podcast, dude. Like let's fire it up. We got 3/4 of a bottle of Maker's Mark because I got a lot of questions. Your family's off limits. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But I want to know. I want to know what people, what makes people tick. Like that, those are the things that I want to know, because I've explored the, you know, my personal being, right? But for me, I want to find out, like, hey, Donnie, like when you go out for 50 days,
do you want to know? Do you want to know what really makes me tick?
Yeah.
Do you know what the concept of entropy is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think about. So, you know, people have this embodiment of live life like you're dying, right? Well, entropy is the continued state of disorder, right? That's everything wants to rot. We are all trending towards death.
Yep.
This table is rotting right now. The food in your refrigerator is rotting right now. Our bodies are decaying right now,
Correct.
right? Everything wants to be disordered. The water in your water bottle wants to be out of the water bottle. The bottle's the only thing that's keeping it in shape of the water, right? And so we as organisms, whether it be a wolf, a mouse, us, like we're all trending towards disorder. The earth itself is trending towards a state of disorder, a state of complete, you know, every molecule, every particle getting away from each other and being as disorganized as possible. And I think about that every day. And I think about that clock of chasing disorder. And I just love the idea of a single moment, a second, can be so fantastic that I'm stealing that second. I'm going to ride that second for just a moment here, whether it be a hummingbird moment, a night with a beautiful woman, whatever it may be, a little thing, a little tiny thing, a sunrise, but even a fraction, right? Just these little tiny things. And I just think about this embodiment of entropy every day, all the time. Like when, like if I get a new Labrador puppy, the day I pick it up, I think about its death. Like, you know, like or like a child, like you just look at that child and like I try to tell myself the instant story of that young girl. Like what I just shape things in my head, and just even like you, right? Like thinking about like just thinking about all the experience that you've had up till now, and like what are you trending towards? And a lot of people think, you know, a lot of people embody themselves with money.
Yeah,
right? They chase money or chase fame or whatever. But to me, I'm chasing entropy. I'm chasing this continued state of disorder. And so because I'm chasing it and it's chasing me, because these things are coming together, I want each second to be I'm trying to just embody the things that I want to do, the experiences that I want, the people that I want to spend my time with, and just I want to be as greedy as possible about my time while I'm here, because I do think we are just on a quick spin here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's some, there's just the world is changing continuously. And I think human beings now more than ever, we talked about on Rogan, like 8 billion people being on the face of the earth, that idea of entropy for the human species is there's definitely trending towards different things. But I just think about that end. I think about that end state. I think about, I'm 43 years old right now. I think about, like, you asked me, like, what makes me tick every day, and that's why I'm thinking about food and exercise and reading and spending time with gentlemen like you to better myself and different avenues of growing my company, not to chase dollars, not to beat my chest and say, oh, look what I did. Like, but literally to create something that is just intrinsically badass, like truly chasing intrinsic wealth, things that are going to lift my friends, things that are going to lift my family, myself, the environment, trying to trend towards something that's better. And if money happens along the way, great, but truly chasing those intrinsic values and realizing the clock of entropy, right? These little ideas but there's true perfection, the idea of true perfection all around us, whether that be, it could be driving your truck down the road and listening to the radio, or a perfectly placed cast with your fly rod, or whatever that may be. Like, there are so many different things that you can that embody like perfection, and I think that's just a really beautiful way to kind of look at things. And that's where I try to escape my own shortcomings in my head of, like, maybe not feeling smart enough or strong enough or fast enough or whatever it is to do the things that I want to do. But I just think, like, none of that really matters, because this big clock is ticking over here, this entropy clock. And so I just want to have as much intrinsic value, as many sensational events that I can have greedily as I move along here to, that setting sun, if you will. And those are the things I think about every day.
And that's why, that's why we're sitting at this table. I think that's why I wanted to have this entire conversation. You and I are after the same exact thing. We're two people sitting at two different mics that are trying to get the same thing out of life. Because I know it's finite. It's coming to an end. And I know, like, when it's in an end, it's at an end. And I know that every time, every time I pick up my daughter, like, I know, like, I've got to take everything that I can.
I do the same thing. I don't want to talk about it, but when I feel certain things, like I don't ever pick up a child and just checking it off. Just no. This is what I'm doing. Like, I don't ever, like, even meeting you today, sitting in the boardroom with all the project ideas that we were discussing today, to, meeting your wife. Like, I honestly try not to just shudder any of this away.
No.
Yeah.
No, neither do I. That's actually why. That's why I was like, hey, come on in, take a look.
Oh yeah.
Because I want you to see. I think everybody, it's good. Like, this is who I am, man. Like,
well, I think even with you posture a little differently.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, for you, because I know, I think there's probably a lot of people in this world that think you're probably very wealthy,
Oh, yeah.
That's, and they don't realize that whether you have, I'm not just saying this, but whether you have $1 billion in the bank or are homeless, you literally, not only are you the same guy, you live the same life.
Oh, yeah.
Like you bought an airplane, but you bought a shitty airplane and you fixed it up. Like, and it's not because you couldn't buy a nice airplane or whether you could or you couldn't, right? It's irrelevant because no matter what, you would have found a way to buy an airplane if you wanted to buy an airplane. And however that meant, like, okay, we'll get the wings next year.
Yeah.
We'll get the wings next year. And like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like I know why you showed me your house. Like I just, cause I know who you are. I know who you are. I've known who you were since the second we met. It was super transparent, which is why you've been so successful.
Which is crazy because like, and like I said before, I don't want to turn this into like some
strong fist.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because I left that first podcast. I was like, man, that's a guy like that is a guy that like I want to know, and not only know, but I want to know him only in the context of he's got a lot of value because he's actually ripped this thing apart. Like you've ripped it apart. You've ripped the hood off. You've taken a look at the engine. Like you've taken a look at every component. And I think
because it's a shame not to.
Yeah.
Because I've been guilty. We all have. I've been guilty of glassed over. I've been guilty of just walking along and forgetting, like, oh, what have I even done the last few hours? Like, what have I even embodied the last few hours? And just same thing, like you running up that mountain. You're just sprinting to the top and not looking at anything, not thinking about anything. And it's just so much more rewarding too. And so I just know exactly who you are. Yeah.
What's interesting, I was going to tell you a story earlier, and we'll close the gap because we probably lost like most of the listeners anyway at this point. But I was out on some fucking random trip, and there was like this perfect fucking rock slide right where I was fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept fucking casting, and I was casting, and I caught like a couple beautiful cutthroat trout. And I was like, but what I really want to do is I want to fucking go down that rock slide. I want to get in the chute and like ride that chute a little ways. But it's going to ruin the fishing. It's going to ruin it.
Sure, because you can push all the rocks in the hole or whatever.
Yeah. But then I was like, fuck it. Threw my rod on the ground. I was like, I'm not done fishing necessarily. I'm just done fishing here because I want to ride that fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I like, stripped down, and it's fall. It's not summer weather. We're not like having fun in July, man. This is fucking fall.
Mm-hmm.
But that shit looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that I was fishing with, he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just going to go ride that thing because it's fucking amazing, man. Like we got to capture this like 1 second out of our life. Like we got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll go upstream or downstream. It's irrelevant, but I gotta fucking ride this thing.
So paint the picture for me. Like how high was it?
Dude, it was beautiful. It's like, it was 4th of July Creek up on this the North Fork of the Clearwater, which is up in northern Idaho. And there's this massive boulder, and then on the far right bank, it had this beautiful little wave train, and it was maybe 4 feet wide, but then it had this beautiful little chute where it looked exactly like a fucking slide that a 4-year-old would be like, this is fucking epic.
This has to happen.
Yeah.
And
it was a great day, but it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
And all I wanted to do was, like, as I was fishing this, it's like, man, I want to ride this thing, and then this way, I want to ride this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't kick it out of my mind. I just want to ride this. And I put away my fly rod. I hooked the fly into the cork of the fly rod.
Yeah.
And my buddy was sitting there. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to ride this thing. And he's like, are you fucking serious? It's cold as shit. I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to ride it. I'm going to ride it because like, that's like, I came here to have a great time, man. Like that's what I came here to do.
Yeah.
And I rode it and it was great. It wasn't like, it wasn't life changing. It was just great. But you know what's great about it? It's not the fact that I'm sitting here telling you this story because I've never told another person that story. It's the fact that I did it. Because I looked at something and I was like, I just want to have fun with this. Like, it's beautiful. I want to have fun with it. It's fucking rad. And I did it. Yeah. And
was it cold?
Yeah, it was cold as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but cold water.
It's cold as shit in the summer.
Yeah, it's cold. Yeah. Like, who cares, man?
Yeah.
It's fucking cold. You put your waders back on. You continue to fly fish, and it's a blip on the radar. But it's like it's not even a significant. It's significant to my life. But it's not significant to anything else. But what that translated into is like, I don't miss it, man. I don't miss the opportunity to fucking ride the slide. I'm not going to.
That's what I was telling Rogan. One of my biggest regrets was I really wanted to dive in with that killer whale.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've thought about it, I don't know, 10,000 times since. Like, I really was like, this is my opportunity. This is my opportunity to just dive in. He's right here. He's staring at me. And I should have done it.
And that's the only thing. Like, you'll look back on, and I'm not saying like you should continue to look back, but those are the moments that you're going to look back on. And you're going to go, I'm not going to make that same mistake twice.
Because what if he would have, he could have killed me.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But what if he would have just swam up to me?
Statistically speaking, he probably wouldn't have.
Right. Yeah, he's too smart to fall for that. And, but what if he would have just like, what if I would have dove in, he would have circled back around and just like pushed right past me.
Yeah.
And, looked at me, or maybe even he would have grabbed my leg with his mouth or something like that and just like let me know that he was there, and then swam away, and I would have swam back to the boat and been like, oh my God.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. But I was too big of a pussy to do it. Yeah. I just missed the opportunity.
You didn't. Yeah. You didn't, but you did.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things where we look back on and we're like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah.
I'm never going to miss that opportunity. So without that opportunity, you're not going to bypass the next one.
Yeah. The opportunity that we all spoke of today, like I've talked myself out of this a million times, and we'll flesh this out in the future for the audience, but I've like tried to talk myself out of this a million times in doing this. And it hit me one day, like, why in the hell am I trying to talk myself out of this? I need to just not talk myself into this, but I just need to do it.
Right.
I just need to do it because I'm trying to, I get guilty of this too, is trying to organize a bunch of complex information in my head and down to a single variable or a single event or a clean picture. And it's too messy, too chaotic to do that for a lot of really cool, really fantastic things. So you have to surround yourself with good people, and you have to find people that have skill sets that you don't. And you have to do things for the right reasons and chase things for the right reasons and do things for others for the right reasons. And then you can really accomplish some awesome kick-ass things.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. And it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Well, Donnie Vincent, I'm going to wind this up, man.
Yeah.
We've been at it for
we covered
4 hours, right, Dave? 3+. That's great. 3
Dave,
what?
Dave's going to put all of this in his
We're going to
suicide
fucking wind
note.
this up, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So cheers, Donnie Vincent.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.